Tucky Talk.
Huckytalker. College football. We talking about college football.
Oh, I have so many things to say about college football.
Oh, I do too.
I wonder if the rankings have come out today. Actually, that would be a really good thing to reference right now.
Step 1. College football don't suck. Step 2. It sucked now. Step 3. Fix college football to go back to not suck.
Thank you.
Yay, that was a great story. Moving on. So besides the fact that we're massive nerds and we love like Doctor Who and most animes that are out right now and video games and all that stuff, we do absolutely love college football. Both Greg and I grew up on it. I was going to college football games when I was 3 months old at Florida State University.
See, I didn't start watching football until I was like 11 or 12, so there's a bit of a time gap there.
Yeah,
it's a bit. He's been around a lot longer than I have.
Yeah,
but I'm just as much of a fan of it as you are nowadays.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because we both just grew into the fandom basically of football.
Well, for
our
me,
own teams.
Well, for me, like my dad, my mom used to think it was so cute, but like when he was like three years old, and I'm just sitting there with Legos, and I put them in I color coordinate the teams, and I have them play football plays and stuff like that. I was very much into football. I learned every rule. I learned every aspect of football. I enjoyed it like crazy. Never enjoyed playing it. I mean, I do like playing backyard football every once in a while, but I never really enjoyed actually getting hit and tackling people.
I haven't come up with the new rankings yet.
Oh, that sucks. So anyways, I'm here to talk about how much I have not liked college football in the past few years. And it's not because I'm indoctrinated or in love with the BCS system. I wasn't a huge fan of that either. But the system that we have now makes me crave the BCS system more than I ever have in my life, because it's just
and that's saying
terrible. Something. It's just terrible right now.
What we're more or less referencing is the fact that there is a college football playoff committee that decides, these teams are ranked in the top 25, and then they rank how many teams are even in it? 135 now?
No, 129.
I thought it was 130s now.
I think it's 129 still.
Okay, because there were a couple that left too.
Yes, like Idaho.
But there was a bunch that joined. And I was just like, it's an FBS school?
Yeah, I know, like Old Dominion's there, and then like Idaho is not, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I just want to understand, like, so Coastal Carolina, South Alabama, and then there was
Appalachian State.
Appalachian State, which they've deserved to join for a long time.
Oh yeah, especially if they beat your
favorite team. We're gonna have to relive U of M every year. It's like, oh, look at this play. Oh, look at them lose to Appalachian State. That's what's happening.
Dude, it's the same thing about like Florida State and the freaking wide left at Miami.
Yeah, but it's not, because those were two like big time programs that have a rivalry with each other. You can't live. It's like Michigan, Ohio State with me.
I know.
Okay, so first we should probably start off with who our teams are before we just like go rambling on about them.
Well, to be fair, our true team, our true pride and joy is Western Michigan University.
Western Michigan, brown and gold.
That is not how that song goes. At all.
Who says I was doing any song?
That is not how any of the anthems or anything goes. I don't know where that came from. It was beautiful, but I don't know where it came from.
It's just like an old fanfare. Like, just sing anything to it.
My puppy dog is 12 years old.
That actually fit into it. I'm really happy about that.
I also, like I mentioned already, Florida State. My mom and dad met at Florida State, and they had a bebe, which was me, at Florida State. And so I literally thank Florida State for my birth. So I kind of root for them all the time.
They had you at Florida State?
They had me at the hospital. I forget the name.
Tallahassee?
They had me in Tallahassee, yeah.
Okay.
So I was born in Tallahassee. So
I was going to say, it was like, they had you while they were going to Florida State? Because,
no, they got married. They both graduated, but they didn't take long. After they graduated, they got married and then literally had me about 3 months after.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's like no judgment of like, wow, they had you when you were in college still.
Well, let me correct it. They conceived me 3 months after their marriage because I still very much am like I was born their first year of marriage. Yes.
No, it's fine.
That I just want to make that clear because I feel like I didn't describe that right. So and then your favorite team that you root for, which I still don't 100% know why.
Favorite team is still Western Michigan.
Okay, yes, but the team that you rooted for before Western, because we both weren't.
Yes, and the team that I grew up on, it was University of Michigan, because my family roots for them. My grandfather rooted for them when he moved up here from the deep south of Alabama, and unfortunately, he was also an Alabama fan. So
it's not unfortunate.
Alabama's I always root for Alabama. Everybody seems to have this like loathing for Alabama now
because they win all the time.
Yeah, I guess that always happens to the winning program.
Exactly, like when Florida State was winning every year with Bobby Bowden, it became one of the most notorious hated teams in the world. It's what happens when you win all the time because it gets annoying. It gets really annoying to watch a team make it to, well, for example, like the Final Four. It's Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and sometimes Oklahoma. Like that's like the fourth team is always the random. Sometimes some random team, but it's always those three that make it: Alabama, Oklahoma, or Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. You'll see them there. It doesn't matter. Like Ohio State, just to date this video that we're making, Ohio State just lost to Purdue, and they'll still make it into the Final Four. I guarantee it. I guarantee they'll make it. It'll happen.
I'm predicting that they'll lose to Nebraska next week, 1-6.
I don't think they will. Because
and I don't want to hate any one team too much because it's mostly a bias that doesn't really have a lot of legit reasons for being there. Mostly just because of the rivalry that Michigan and Ohio State have. And I mean, there's a big state rivalry there too because Battle for Toledo. We all wanted Toledo when it was the booming glass/steel production/harbor awesomeness that it used to be over 100 years ago, and for some reason, we still carry that tradition over today, even though it makes no difference to any of us now. But I don't want to hate any team too much. So if you really like Ohio State, put it in the comments below. Put your team pride up, and that goes for any university.
We'll tell you that you're wrong, but
we'll comment and say no.
You're wrong, but it's okay. You can root for them. This is a free country. You root for anybody you like, but
yeah, you can root for them. That doesn't mean we're gonna support your rootiness.
So he's a Michigan fan. I am a Florida State fan. We both are Western. That's where we both met. So we root for Western Michigan all the time. They're having a pretty good year. I'm actually happy about that.
Yeah, they're 6-2. They're bowl eligible. They're 4-0 in our conference. This is not what I was really expecting this year, to be honest.
It's pretty good. I'm happy with them. But going back to the situation is about like the playoff system is that the original argument for the BCS and why it didn't work in college football was because people and teams of the BCS, if you weren't part of the Power 5 conferences or you weren't part of any conferences, there was literally no chance for you to make it to a national championship game.
Yeah.
College football playoffs was supposedly supposed to fix that. That was one of the biggest arguments for it. It was supposedly supposed to fix the chance to where people from outside the Power 5 conference can pick one of the teams from the lesser conferences, make it to the final game, and do really, really well.
Exactly.
Well, last year, if I remember correctly, just tell me if I'm wrong, there was an undefeated team that was not part of the Power 5, and actually, turns out, was the only undefeated team in the entire nation.
Yeah, and then they beat a Power 5 team in their New Year's Bowl.
Who, by the way, also, that team that they beat, Auburn, beat Alabama and Georgia, the two teams that went to the national championship game. So, come at us, bro. I think University of Central Florida, first of all, is national championship from last year. I want to be on that bandwagon. I don't care if anyone gets mad at me or tells me how illiterate about that. They deserve it. They flat out deserve it. And they're undefeated right now. They're ranked 10th. Hopefully, maybe they can make it in the Power 10. The
main four.
The main four, yeah, they can get in there and they can do something. Maybe the committee has learned and maybe there is a progression going on.
Pray.
Maybe. But I doubt it. I really doubt it. I think if they go undefeated, they win their conference, they do everything that they do right, and everything's fantastic, they're not going to learn. They're going to throw the same teams that always make it up there because those teams are consecutively winning with their records of 10 or 10-1 or 11-1 and all that stuff, and they're just not
two lost teams.
Yeah, or two lost teams that even get in there. Freaking Ohio State Buckeyes. It's just a system that makes no sense. There's no actual solidifying rules that people follow. They just go, well, this team takes on this team because of strength of schedule. Well, here's another thing about strength of schedule that I just completely disagree with. When you start off a season with the SEC having 6 positions in the top 25, and they go, well, we pay attention to strength of schedule because you have to take on all those teams. Of course you're going to have a better strength of schedule than anyone from like Western Michigan or Boise State or Wyoming or anything like that. Cincinnati, because these teams don't face anybody that are tough. And of course they can start off their season going up on the gauntlet of ridiculous ranked teams and get their ass beat. Or even if they don't get their ass beat and have good teams, then committees always go, well, that was just a fluke game. Well, it's just an unfair system. It makes no sense. I don't believe in rankings preseason rankings, because it makes no sense. How many teams fluctuate throughout the year because they go, this team should be good, but they're not?
Yeah, and
I got really heated about that.
Perfectly acceptable, because I also get heated on this argument. But where I disagree with you, I agree with you on the preseason rankings. I think they're just stupid to even have. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know how good teams are until they're actually on the field playing a couple of games. We still have the BCS rankings that come in every year too, or the college football playoff rankings, as they call them now. They're still the same. They come in like the 6th or the 7th week of the season. Mm-hmm. You know, the AP rankings are always there, but the college football playoff rankings are there till the 7th or 8th week, and they're only ever so slightly different from the AP rankings. That part is still weird in my opinion that even happens, and I feel like it shouldn't. And we discussed this before too, that shouldn't even happen until then. But before we get on to that subject entirely, the part where I disagree with you on is that you said it doesn't make any sense why the same teams always make it into the college football playoff. Oh no, it makes perfect sense why they make it into the college playoff. There's several factors that you have to consider when trying to figure out the system that feels rigged. And, I mean, there's no other way of putting it. It is rigged. But it's because they want teams in the college football playoff that are going to bring them lots of money. And the teams that are going to bring them lots of money are the teams that are at the biggest schools. And so, in order to have a packed house for the biggest games in college football, which is the college football playoff, you want teams that are from huge schools. So they'll allow other teams like Oregon or even Washington, because Washington is a really big school. Mm-hmm. They'll allow teams like that to get into the college playoff every once in a while. But mostly they're going to be from the big conferences that have a lot of notoriety, like LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, University of Michigan, Michigan State even would fall into that category. But teams,
Power 5, yeah, like
you just said, everybody from the Power 5 conferences would, they'd have a legit shot at it.
Right. No, but that's the other thing about that too. I just want to jump onto that. Is just the idea is that if you want to have that system, then that's fine. If you want to have a Power 5 system where the Power 5 teams make it into a Final Four program, all that's fine. Then put yourself in another division. Put yourself in another division league where these teams like the MAC and the Mountain West and the AAC and the Conference USA, they have their own, and the Power 5 have their own, ACC, Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12. They can all do their own things, separate them. But the truth is that that's not entertaining either, because that's a small number of teams that we put in there. We like the variety of teams. We like the fact that there's 129 teams have a chance for conference championship and national championship and bowl games and all these stuff. We enjoy all of that. We really do. But this is the only sport that I've seen where we put flavor into rankings and statistics. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you do it based on a system that makes more sense, like, oh, these teams win, these teams lose, the teams that are winning, they go, the teams that are losing don't go. That's the point. So if you have a team and a list of teams that are all like 11-1, then all those 11-1 teams take up the top brackets. You don't get to throw a 7-3 team in the middle of 11-1 team because they take on tougher opponents. That means nothing. That is nothing. That's a nothing thing. They're consistently losing to those tougher opponents. They don't get to deserve to get up to the high rankings if they keep losing. That's the point. You should have a system where win-loss is a big deal because every other league in the entire world follows the same suit. If you win, and you keep going because you're winning. If you lose, you're losing. You get out of the way. And you take on teams that don't win as much as you because you're not a winning program. That's what makes more sense. It's what's logical. Now, you can also make the argument that says, okay, well, you take on a bunch of cupcake teams and you win all these teams and everyone else who's taking on tougher opponents are losing all those opponents. I hear you. I understand that. So that's why there's also known as tiebreaker situations and tiebreaker programs to fix that kind of problem as well. Because you can look at point differential. You can look at other things that are in there, like how many points have you been scored on, how many points are you scored on. So if you have tiebreaker situations of these 11-1 teams, then you obviously see that these teams make it, because of course only 4 teams are going to make it. Now, there's a lot of argument to going to a 16-man bracket, which would fix a lot of this problem, and I would actually agree to that program too, and maybe we can do a large discussion on what my opinion is on how to fix the college football, because I have been currently writing up a thing myself on the whole college football, how we should fix it as a fan thing, and I might make a video on that. Leave a comment below if you want me to make a video on that, because I would love to. But at the same time, you just look at these rankings and you just pay attention to all these teams. It's nothing but fan service to the programs that are going on. And don't get me wrong, Greg and I love Michigan and Florida State, so we're victims of it too. Like I said, we create that too. Florida State, when they're hot, they're on top. You can't touch them. But there also has been a weird, awkward fairness about the situation too. When the first year they made with Jameis Winston, 2013, winning that 2013 year, then the next year they go undefeated all the way through the season until the Final Four, and they're ranked 4th behind 3 teams that have lost 1 game. They're part of the Power 5 too. What is the argument here? What are you trying to make with these conferences? Oh, you just got to win by large margins. What does that mean? A win's a win.
Excuse me. I've seen teams still do that aren't part of the Power 5, and they still get ignored.
Exactly.
They still go. Like, I'm looking at the most recent rankings, because I've actually found an article saying what this week's rankings are supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, the USF Bulls ranked 20th in the nation. Awesome. Congratulations, guys. You're moving up in the world. It says last week's ranking was number 20. They beat UConn 38-20. Sure, UConn's not that great of a school this year, but they 38-20, it's a pretty solid win. And this week's ranking, number 20.
Yeah, they haven't moved.
They haven't moved at all. Pretty sure there are teams that moved around them then, because there were some upsets this week. So.
Oh, there was a ton of upsets, and that's something that makes no sense. It makes no sense why teams.
You're just going to sit there and well, I guess we're not good enough to do anything, even though we won the game. And
so, of course, and here's another thing too. Of course, the NFL is going to be different than college football. So I'm going to make this comparison, knowing that, of course, that we can't have the NFL system to be put in place. But when teams lose, and you see the national rankings of teams, they go by win-loss. Pretty much all the time they go by win-loss. If there's tiebreakers, they go by point differential after that. That's how they do it. In hockey, they have a win-loss system by points. So if you win, you get 2 points. If you lose, you get nothing. If you get tie, you split 1 point each other. There's systems to put people out of tiebreaker scenarios, because there's teams, of course, that are going to have the same records. And college football is a small, limited amount of time to play a bunch of games at one time. So yeah. I get that there's a lot of interesting rules and intricacies about it that we have to follow suit on. But at the end of the year, you have to choose a national champion. And the point of being a national champion is saying that you were the best team in the entire league. That's the whole point of all of this. But how can you fairly say that you're the best team in the entire nation when you have undefeated teams that don't even get a chance to make it in? How do you say that? How do you argue that you're the best team? Alabama, did you deserve to win last season? I don't think you did, because you didn't take on the best team in the entire league. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a team right now who I've been rooting for this year, because they're not usually ranked. Kentucky Wildcats. They're in a big Power 5 conference, but there was a team that's kind of we see as a cupcake team in the SEC. This year they've been doing really well. They lost a game to a team they shouldn't have lost to. So they faced Vanderbilt this week, who they're not a good team this year. Let's just face it. They're not that great of a team. And Kentucky beat them 14-7 this week. So that's a one touchdown game.
7-point difference.
That's not a very big difference. That's hey, we got out of that alive. Let's be thankful. Last week's ranking was number 17. This week's ranking, number 14.
When UCF
they moved up 3
USF
spots?
had a 8-point difference and didn't move at all.
Well, it was double-digit difference. This was 38-20.
Oh, was it 38-20? I thought it was 38-30.
It was 38-20 or 30. No, it wasn't 30.
Regardless.
Yeah.
USF had more points that came in, and that's the thing too. We're not playing this point differential game argument because we think it's right or how powerful you are. But if you're going by week and paying attention to the teams you're focusing on and you're doing it to yourself, then we're going to play the same game and say that you're inconsistent. You make no sense.
We're playing the college football committee game right now. It's like, oh, I see what you're doing here. Let's see if you're biased or not. Oh, it looks like you're kind of biased towards the Power 5 still there.
Exactly, and that's just annoying.
Just a little bit.
It's just
a little bit.
It's annoying to watch as fans because I want it to be fair. That's the point. I want it to be as fair as possible, and I want programs to actually have a chance of making it because it's also entertaining to watch upsets. That's the greatest thing about college football. That's better than any other sport is watching ranked teams fail and lose. Of course, you don't want your personal teams to lose. I don't want Florida State to lose ever. I love Florida State. I don't want Western Michigan to lose ever. But my goodness. And then UCF is ranked 10th still after they were still 10th.
Oh, no. They beat East Carolina 37-10 this week.
Mm-hmm.
They were ranked number 9 last week. They're ranked number 10 this week.
Yeah.
They went down a spot, even though they're still undefeated.
Yeah.
What the actual hell, college football committee? How does that make any sense? You say that you're not biased. You be like, oh, we're bringing all these experts from teams from all over the place, and I'm like, that's a celebrity. That's a celebrity.
Condoleezza Rice was on the program.
That's a person who has
nothing against Condoleezza Rice. They have
college football experience, we don't claim to be professionals of college football knowledge. We know a lot. We know a ton because
been going since I was 3 months old. I know a lot about college football. I've been around it my entire life, quite literally.
But at the same time, it's just like, I feel like we can make a far more unbiased decisions than over half the people in this committee.
I would just bring mathematicians in. Right now, undefeated Alabama winning teams by large margins. Of course, put them up there. Put them number 1. They deserve to be number 1. I'm not mad about the number 1 position right now. Where did Ohio State drop? That's actually a good argument.
They're number 9.
They're number 9.
Yeah,
cool.
They
lost to Purdue, to a team who lost to Northwestern. A team who in Northwestern is a team that barely beat Rutgers last week. Are you telling me that they're that good?
Rutgers is.
And that's the thing.
I love you guys.
That's the thing. That's the thing that drives me nuts about this college football is that it's just massive inconsistencies all year long.
Ooh.
It's just so inconsistent. Ranked 9th Ohio State. Are you kidding me?
And it's funny because you can see
you knocked an undefeated team out of his ranking. You went from 2nd to 9th to knock UCF out of the situation. That was bullshit. I'm sorry, that's bullshit.
Ohio State goes down to 9, which knocks an undefeated team out of 10.
I'm sorry, that makes no sense.
Cool.
It just doesn't. And it's not to say that the AAC isn't a bad conference either. They have better teams sometimes than most of the SEC teams right now. UCF
team. The AAC?
AAC, the Atlantic or American.
Are you talking about the American the
the American? That's where UCF is from. UCF
USF.
Yeah. UCF and USF have 2 ranked they're the 2 ranked teams in the AAC. Most conferences don't even have a ranked team in their rankings, and you don't even give them you think giving them the 10th ranked position is something of respect or admiration to their program. Give them more respect. Put them up to the top 4. There's no other team that deserves a top 4 more than that team because there's a lot of undefeated teams. There's not a lot of undefeated teams left. They don't deserve. They deserve it. Notre Dame deserves to be up there. Alabama deserves to be up there.
I'm still waiting for Notre Dame to get beat this year because I feel like they're going to at some point.
I hope Florida State does.
They have a pretty tough schedule. I'll admit that Notre Dame has a tough schedule this year.
Of course they do.
But they always do that to themselves because we're going to be independent. Look at us being cool, being independent over here. And we're fighting Irish.
That's like this is just the Michigan guy coming out hating on Notre Dame.
Yeah, there's a bit of a rivalry there.
I was like, I don't know why.
Join a freaking conference, Notre Dame. Join a conference. There should be no such thing as independent.
Join the MAC.
People.
Hey, Notre Dame, join the MAC. We need a Mid-American conference. You are in the Mid-American area. You literally are in Indiana.
I wish they could
join
actually do
the
that.
MAC. Come to the MAC.
Oh, that'd be the best. That'd be the best.
I don't care if
switch
you
up.
kick our asses from Kingdom Come. Just join the MAC. Do it.
That'd be really
I would
entertaining.
love you to join the MAC. I would be so happy.
Oh, that'd be so hilarious.
Please.
And of course, Alabama and Clemson are
Leon Bedard,
too, but
living in Florida, telling Notre Dame to join the MAC.
Okay, so Alabama, you deserve to be number 1 so far this year because
course.
you've just obliterated almost everybody you face.
Not complaining about that. Yes, it's annoying to see them up there every year, but if they're going to continue winning,
And if
you
they,
can't argue
I
it.
mean, if they went out, because they have one of the toughest schedules I think I've seen yet this year too, with like the people they face and the rankings that they are, and you know whether or not they're actually deserving of those rankings is an entirely different story. But Alabama, kudos to you for just rocking the socks off, Nick Saban.
Are we just going to go down
watching
the
you.
top 25 now? Just complaining.
No, we went up the top 25.
Oh yeah, we did. So it's just inconsistency.
There's a lot of inconsistencies in studying all of the qualities. Like, you beat somebody, cool. You beat somebody who was ranked, awesome. You beat somebody who was ranked in their own house, wow. You beat somebody who was ranked in the top 5 in their own house, who was.
But see, all of that though makes no sense to me. It doesn't matter. All that stuff is flavor. That's something you bring up and argue about how awesome and tremendous the fight was, and you can put that up, and that's like a marketer comes in and be like, my program's the best because we beat them in this and this and this and this and this and all this kind of things.
It'd be like all those freaking Chevy commercials I see now. Where
Exactly,
I'm like,
yeah. Like, we're number 1 in everything. I get that.
one.
That's cool. That's something that a marketer from that university would just brag about. And
I have
having
things to say about that too.
and having bragging rights. But the problem is that when you look at the numbers, yeah, you beat these teams, you did all these kind of stuff. Strength of schedule should be the last thing we consider when it comes to nominations and comes to rankings. That literally should be the last thing we focus on. We should focus on number 1, win-loss. You can't argue win-loss. You just can't. If you're winning, you're winning. If you're losing, you're losing. Then the next best thing is you look at point differential. How much did you beat a team by... Like, and I'm not talking about like, oh, they scored a ton of points that game, they should get more. No, it's based on what was the gap, the point differential between points given, points lost.
Yeah.
You pay attention to that number, and you say, okay, if you're plus 32, and this team has got the same record as plus 31, the plus 32 team is higher by default, saying that they're naturally better at winning games. So then you focus on that one. You then also focus on win-losses of conference play. Because conference play is the biggest thing. If you win your conference, you should be able to go to a BCS bowl game. And I think we have enough conference games to where we have enough BCS bowl games for every single team.
Yeah.
We pretty much do. But the problem is that we double stack teams like from the SEC. They get 3 positions in the BCS because like, oh, they're just doing really, really well. And like they'll get like 2 or 3 of them slipped in there and leaves any other the weaker conferences. And by the way, the only reason why they're weaker conferences is because they have less money and they have less attendance of people that go to those schools. That is it. The skills of the programs don't necessarily differ all that much. Sure, they can the more paying universities get to have.
They can recruit like crazy.
Yeah, they can recruit like crazy
because they can afford to send out more scouts, better scouts, the best scouts, because they all want to go to the best schools and scout there and get more money for their job, but then have access to the best recruits in the nation. Most of the best recruits are in Florida, Texas, down south, where they can play football all the time, and that's why the SEC has like some of the best players in the nation, and that's why there's this. It's just,
but the
it's
same argument though too is we have also head coaches that come into programs like PJ Fleck for Western Michigan came in, gave us an undefeated season, did incredibly well, had one of the best programs, and even we're still using the same players that PJ Fleck recruited that are still doing tremendously well at Western. That's why we're currently 6-2.
Yeah,
and he goes to Minnesota and has done nothing for almost 2-3 years now.
Well, this is the second season.
Oh, is the second season? Okay, but still, like, when is that program going to improve? And the point is that it may not, because there's not a lot of reason for people to go to Minnesota when you have Ohio State, who's in the same conference, who's more guaranteed to win games. PJ Fleck may have made a good decision to possibly get him to national championship, but you don't know that. But the reason why he hadn't made him making the decision, because he looked at Western Michigan and saw the writing on the wall going, Western Michigan's never going to make it because this conference playoff bullshit is never going to allow a team like Western Michigan to make it in there. UCF is the best chance right now for anyone outside the Power 5 to make it in the national championship game, and I guarantee you they're not going to. They're not going to make it because the program's not going to allow it. Yeah. By the way, NCAA, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'll be glad to eat my own words, but prove me wrong.
Oh yeah, and that goes for everybody who watches these videos. You know, you put your opinion out there. If you agree with us, if you don't agree with us, if you have other things to say, please just talk to us. Talk. We're gonna do this every week, right?
Yeah, we'll do
this on a weekly basis. We'll go over the rankings. We'll study the college football playoff rankings. That'll be our main focus.
Leave in a comment below other things we'd like to talk about. We obviously talked about the rankings. We'll probably continue talking about the rankings until they fix the program. I really hope that they go to a 16-man bracket. Let me know again if you want to talk about my opinion on what a 16-man bracket would look like in college football, and I'll give you all the details on what that system is based on.
But hey, congratulations to Purdue. You made it a bunch of Michigan fans really, really happy.
You made the entire state
a lot of other people
happy
too. Yeah, that's all I saw on my Facebook feed status.
Unless you're that weird Michigan fan or a weird Michigan person that roots for Ohio State. What's wrong with you?
Family connections. Excuses, in my opinion. Excuses. And Notre Dame join the conference, please.
Notre Dame, join the MAC. Join the MAC. Join the MAC.
Join the MAC.
Bye. Join the MAC.
Join the MAC.